We can also work with objects in vue.js too, and we're going to do this to add some blog posts to our example. For this, we can use the second Vue instance, which we created for our blog section, into the script, and we can now set up the options object for the create app, which is mounted to our blog section. Pass an object, and we're going to work with the data property once more. This is a function just like above, which is going to return all of the data which we can use in our blog section. Inside of here, we're going to access our posts, which is going to be an array. Each one of these posts is going to be stored inside of an object, which is going to have an ID, a title, and the body section. The first ID is going to be the value of 1, separated by a comma, the title for the blog post. And this is just dummy data, so you can add anything you want for these blog posts. The third item is the body, which is the actual content for our blog post. I'm going to grab the content from our index page, and as a string, we can paste this inside of the body section. If you do see any errors, just like we see here, this is because we're using multi-line text. We could go through each one of these lines individually and bring them to be all onto the same line, just like this. But this is not an efficient way of doing things. Or another way to do this is to use the backticks. So rather than these quotations, we could replace these with the backtick icon. And this will now allow us to use multi-line text. So just to give us some content to work with, I'm going to copy this object and then paste this in for a second blog post. The ID of 2. Change the title. This one is going to be using the Vue CDN. And then the third one, which has the ID of 3. This one is going to be how I mastered Vue, which you can write when you've finished this course. So even though these posts are objects, it's still an array of objects, meaning we can again use the v-for directive in our HTML. Down to the blog section, which we are controlling with this Vue instance, we have 2 hard-coded articles. So for simplicity, let's remove the second one, and we can now use a v-for loop to repeat this as many times as needed. We want to repeat the article, so we can add the v-for directive, and this time this will be post in posts. Remember that post is the name of our array, and the post variable is the name for each array item. And we can now access this inside of our article. So inside the double curly braces, we can output our post. And let's see how this looks in the browser. If we output the post, this is the value of our full post object. This will be repeated 3 times, since we have 3 separate blog posts. These are also unique. We have the ID of 1, the ID of 2, and the ID of 3 at the bottom. Rather than accessing this full blog post, we can structure this by accessing any of these properties. So this was the post title, so we can access this with post.title. And then instead of this text inside of the p element, we can access the post.body. And this all works now perfectly fine. Back over to our script. If we were to add lots more data properties just like this, our Vue instance can quickly become really crowded. To help with this, we can also take our array of objects and place this outside of the Vue instance. So let's grab all of the contents of the array, including the square brackets. Grab all of this, leaving just the post variable. Outside of the Vue instance, we can create a regular JavaScript variable. This is called post, and then we can set this equal to our array. This post array can now be referenced down inside of our Vue instance. So the post data property can be equal to our post array. Let's check this is working. Over to the browser, and the 3 blog posts is still in place. And also using the ES6 shorthand property syntax, since the name and the value are both the same, we can shorten it to just the single value, which also works completely fine too.